Rome was terrified of one city. So terrified that a Roman senator ended every single speech, no matter what the topic, with the same 5 words. Those words were, "Carthage must be destroyed." This is the story of the city Rome wanted you to forget. For over a century, Rome fought 3 brutal wars against a single enemy. Not the Greeks, not the Persians, not the Gauls. A city on the northern coast of Africa, a city so powerful, so wealthy, and so feared that when Rome finally destroyed it in 146 BCE, they didn't just burn it. They razed every building to the ground. They enslaved every survivor, and they systematically erased its history, destroying its libraries, its records, its art. Almost everything we know about Carthage today comes from its enemies, which means the real story has been buried for over 2,000 years. This is that story. To understand Carthage, you need to go back even further, to the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were the greatest seafarers and traders of the ancient world. Based along the coast of what is now Lebanon, they built trading outposts across the entire Mediterranean, from Cyprus to Spain. They also gave the world something far more lasting than any empire: the alphabet. The very letters you're reading right now descend directly from Phoenician script. Around 814 BCE, according to legend, a Phoenician princess named Dido fled her homeland after her brother murdered her husband and seized the throne. She sailed west and landed on the northern coast of Africa. There, she negotiated with local Berber tribes for as much land as could be covered by a single ox hide. The tribes agreed, thinking it a small request. Dido cut the hide into the thinnest possible strips, laid them end to end, and enclosed enough land to build a citadel. Whether the story is true or not, the city she founded had a Phoenician name, Carthage, meaning simply new city. The Greeks called it Carchedon. The Romans called it Carthago. We call it Carthage. What Carthage became is almost impossible to overstate. By 300 BCE, Carthage was the largest city in the world. Its harbors were enormous, with 220 ship docks, gleaming columns rising around them in a half circle, flanked by towering arches and buildings decorated with Greek sculpture. 2 harbors operated side by side, one for commercial trade, one exclusively for its war fleet. Carthaginian trading ships sailed daily to every corner of the Mediterranean. They bought and sold ivory, wine, purple dye, glass, precious metals, and exotic animals. They had silver mines in Spain, farmland in North Africa that fed entire empires, and trade agreements with peoples as far away as West Africa. Wealthy Carthaginian citizens lived in multi-story houses with mosaic floors and painted courtyards. The city had running water, aqueducts, cisterns, and drainage channels, centuries before most of Europe could dream of such things. Markets and public baths hummed with daily life. Citizens attended theatrical performances and chariot races. Children of the elite learned mathematics, philosophy, navigation, and multiple languages. Most Carthaginians spoke Punic, Greek, and later Latin. Its government wasn't a monarchy. Carthage was a republic, governed by an elected senate of 300 citizens and 2 leaders called suffets, who served 1-year terms, not unlike Roman consuls. In many ways, Carthage was more sophisticated than Rome, more cosmopolitan, more connected. And Rome knew it.
The conflict between Rome and Carthage was, at its core, about one island, Sicily. Carthage controlled the western half. Greek city-states controlled the east. And Rome, then just a mid-sized city-state in central Italy, wanted the whole thing. In 264 BCE, a dispute over a Sicilian city dragged both powers into direct conflict. It was the beginning of the First Punic War, and it would last 23 years. Here's something remarkable. Rome had almost no navy when the war began. Carthage had one of the most powerful fleets the ancient world had ever seen, 200 to 300 warships, crewed by some of the best sailors alive. Rome's solution was audacious. They captured a wrecked Carthaginian warship, reverse-engineered it, and within 60 days built 330 ships of their own. Then they trained their land soldiers to row. And they invented a device called the corvus, a spiked boarding ramp that could be dropped onto an enemy ship, locking it in place and turning a sea battle into a land battle. Suddenly, Carthage's greatest advantage, its navy, was neutralized. After years of brutal fighting, Carthage lost. It was forced to hand over Sicily and pay a crushing war debt. But Carthage was not finished. Not by a long way. A generation after the First War, a Carthaginian general named Hannibal Barca would come closer to destroying Rome than anyone in history, before or since. At 26 years old, Hannibal took command of Carthage's army in Spain. His plan was breathtaking in its ambition. Rather than fight Rome at sea, where Rome was now strong, he would march his army overland through Spain, across southern France, and over the Alps into Italy itself, attacking Rome from the north where they least expected it. He crossed the Alps in winter, with 37 war elephants. Many men and most of the elephants died in the crossing. Hannibal himself lost the sight in one eye to infection, but he made it through. What followed was one of the most devastating military campaigns in ancient history. At the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE, Hannibal's army surrounded and annihilated a Roman force of 55,000 to 80,000 men. In a single day, an estimated 20% of Rome's adult male population was killed. Rome came within a breath of collapse. Its allies in southern Italy began switching sides. The king of Macedon allied with Hannibal. Panic spread through the city. And yet Rome did not surrender. They refused to negotiate. They rebuilt. They freed 8,000 enslaved people and armed them as soldiers. They raised new legions. They pivoted their strategy, attacking Carthage's supply lines in Spain and eventually threatening Carthage itself. Hannibal was recalled home. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, he was defeated for the first and only time in his life. He spent his remaining years in exile, never stopping his effort to build another coalition against Rome. Rather than be captured, he eventually poisoned himself. He was 64 years old. After the Second Punic War, Carthage was stripped of its navy, its territories, and its ability to wage war without Rome's permission. It was humiliated, but it was not dead. Within decades, Carthage had recovered economically. Its farms were productive, its trade was growing, and that terrified Rome. A senator named Cato the Elder made it his personal mission to destroy Carthage permanently. No matter what speech he was giving in the Roman Senate, on taxes, on grain, on foreign policy, he would end every single address with the same 5 words: Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. In 149 BCE, Rome found a pretext. They demanded Carthage disarm completely, surrender 300 noble children as hostages, and, in the cruelest instruction, abandon their city and move inland, away from the sea. The Carthaginians refused. They chose to fight. For 3 years, they held off the Roman siege, melting down gold and silver ornaments to make weapons, tearing apart the robes in their temples to make catapult ropes, using every resource left to them. In 146 BCE, Rome finally broke through. What happened next was one of the most thorough acts of cultural erasure in ancient history. The city was burned for 17 days. Its 500,000 inhabitants were killed or enslaved. Its libraries, containing centuries of Punic knowledge on agriculture, navigation, and science, were destroyed or dispersed. Its very location was salted, a symbolic act to prevent anything from growing there again. Rome didn't just defeat Carthage. They tried to unmake it, but they didn't fully succeed. Today, the ruins of ancient Carthage sit on a quiet hillside just outside modern Tunis in Tunisia, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most undervisited ancient sites in the entire Mediterranean. You can walk through what remains of the Antonine Baths, enormous Roman structures built over the Punic city. You can visit the Tophet, the ancient burial ground where archaeologists found thousands of urns and still debate what they contained. You can stand on the Bursa Hill, where the citadel once stood, and look out over the same sea that Carthaginian traders sailed for over 600 years. Archaeologists are still digging. New isotopic analysis in recent years has revealed details about Carthage's mining operations and trade networks that Roman historians never mentioned, because Rome never wanted anyone to know. Every decade, Carthage gets a little less erased. Carthage is the story of a civilization written almost entirely by its enemies. We don't know what Carthaginians called themselves in their own language. We don't have their poetry, their philosophy, or their own account of Hannibal's march. Rome destroyed all of it. What we do know is that for over 600 years, Carthage was one of the most powerful, most sophisticated, most cosmopolitan cities on Earth. It controlled the Western Mediterranean. It produced one of the greatest military strategists who ever lived. It built a republic with elected leaders centuries before Rome claimed that idea as its own. And it was so thoroughly erased that most people today couldn't find it on a map. Next week, we go deeper to the people who built Carthage in the first place, the Phoenicians. The forgotten civilization that gave the world the alphabet, mapped the Atlantic, and traded with cultures Rome didn't even know existed. If you want to go further right now, I've linked tours of the Carthage archaeological site in Tunis in the description below. It's one of the most affordable and least crowded ancient sites in the Mediterranean, and completely worth the trip. Subscribe if you want to keep finding the places history forgot. I'll see you next week.